Let me set the stage for you. It's 11:17 p.m. on a Tuesday night. The kind of night when the world feels quieter than it should. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, bathed in the glow of a baseball game rerun I've already seen twice, sipping lukewarm tea because I'm trying to be healthy. My wife, Anna, had said she was visiting her sister. Said she might stay the night if they opened wine and started crying about childhood or some Lifetime movie nonsense. I didn't question it. That was mistake number one. Anyway, my phone lights up. Anna calling. I answer on instinct, because that's what husbands do, right? You pick up. You care. You engage, even when it's late and you're halfway through regretting the tea. But instead of her voice, soft and sleepy, I hear him. A man. Deep voice. Confident. Like you belong there. Hey, she's in the shower. Want me to take a message? It took me a second to even process what I was hearing. I blinked. My mouth open, but my brain hadn't caught up yet. I thought I had misdialed. I looked at the screen again just to be sure. Anna calling. Not a number. Not a prank. Her name. Her number. Her voicemail box. And this guy just answered like he was home. I hung up. My hand was frozen around the phone like it had been superglued to my bones. I didn't scream. I didn't call back. I didn't throw the phone. I just sat there in the dark, the baseball game playing on like the world hadn't shifted under my feet. I started breathing slower, deeper. Not because I was calm. No, it was the kind of breathing you do right before a storm hits. Like your body is bracing for what comes next, even when your heart's still hoping this is some giant misunderstanding. But here's the kicker. I didn't even get mad. Not yet. I got curious. Because if that guy was bold enough to pick up my wife's phone, then he wasn't just a one-time fling. He was comfortable. And you don't get comfortable unless you've been there a while. The next morning, and it came back around 8:30 a.m. hair wet. No makeup. Smelled like lavender shampoo and lice. Sorry I didn't call, she said, casually tossing her keys on the counter like she hadn't just detonated a phone bomb in my ear hours earlier. Melissa and I stayed up late watching old rom-coms. Rom-coms? Huh? Yeah. The kind with bonus male leads who answer your phone? I played it cool. Oscar-worthy performance, if I do say so myself. That's nice, I said, sipping coffee I suddenly didn't want. Everything all right? She smiled. Of course. Why? Why? That one syllable just about did it for me. That calm deflection. The fake normal. I've been married to this woman for 7 years. Long enough to know when she's improvising. Long enough to see her tell a lie with her whole face, but never her eyes. Still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. See, I'm a man who's learned from a lifetime of building IKEA furniture without the manual. Don't act until you've got all the pieces in front of you. That whole day, I watched her. She scrolled through her phone a little too fast. Set it face down a little too often. Laughed a little too hard at texts she didn't let me see. And you know what? I didn't feel rage. Not yet. I felt methodical. That night, I waited until she fell asleep. Then I did what every betrayed man who's still holding on to hope does. I checked her phone. Locked, of course. But I knew her passcode. Her dog's birthday. Cliché? Sure. But she loved that dog more than she respected me, apparently. And there it was. A text thread with a number saved under the name Heather Cupcake. Yeah, Heather. With a cupcake emoji. Bold. The thread was full of, I miss you already, and you sleep so quiet. It drives me crazy smiling face with orange dot. The kind of stuff she used to text me back when she used to blush when I looked at her. I scrolled. And scrolled. At one point, he even said, I almost answered your phone earlier. Thought it was your sister. Grimacing face, hope your husband doesn't suspect anything, LOL. 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 I put the phone down and stared at the ceiling. That wasn't the moment I felt heartbroken. That was the moment I realized I'd been written out of my own marriage like a background character in a soap opera. And buddy, I wasn't staying off screen much longer. The thing about truth is, it's not always loud. Sometimes it just sits there, humming in the background, waiting for you to stop pretending you don't hear it. 3 days after the Heather Cupcake revelation, I decided to call Anna again late at night. She said she'd be staying at Melissa's again. Same excuse. Same tone. Like it was just a rerun of last week's episode. I waited until 10:42 p.m. this time. Gave it a little suspense. Then I hit call. Ring, ring. And just like a cheap magic trick, the voice picked up. Not Anna. Him. Again. Hey. She's tied up right now. I didn't say a word. I let the silence stretch so long, I could hear him breathing. Then I hung up. I didn't need to ask questions anymore. She was cheating. Point blank. No maybe, no what if, no let's not jump to conclusions. The guy was answering my wife's phone. That's not speculation, that's syllables leaving another man's mouth while he's lying next to the woman I put a ring on. Now here's the part where most stories talk about heartbreak and sadness and all that poetic stuff. But not me. I didn't cry. I cleaned. Not out of grief. Out of calculation. If this marriage was a stage play, I was done playing the fool. Time to change roles. That night, I opened a new note on my phone and titled it, Receipts, Screenshots, Dates, Texts, Audio Memos, Voicemail Transcriptions. I made a digital dossier. CIA would have been proud. Then I checked our shared bank account. That's when I noticed a few Uber charges to places I'd never heard of, and she doesn't take Ubers for work. Cross-referenced the timestamps with texts from Heather Cupcake. Bingo. One trip to a boutique hotel, another to a wine bar, and one late-night ride to an apartment complex 2 towns over. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. That's the part that sticks with you. Not the cheating itself, but how comfortable they get doing it. They stop hiding because they think you're too dull, too weak, or too in love to notice. And me? I noticed. All of it. I took screenshots, logged times, copied chat threads, and backed it all up in a secure folder labeled Divorce Fuel. The next morning, Anna came home like nothing happened. She poured coffee, kissed my cheek, and made scrambled eggs. I watched her like a detective watching the suspect clean a murder weapon in the sink. Because now I was sure. And soon, she'd be sorry. You ever notice how a lie doesn't unravel all at once? It frays slowly, thread by thread, until the whole thing just sags and falls apart like a cheap sweater from a discount bin. That's where we were now. And me? I had the scissors. A week passed. I didn't confront her. Didn't rage. I just let her keep performing. Every morning, Anna played the role of the perfect wife. Smile, kiss, coffee, then off to work, or Melissa's, or wherever Heather the human homewrecker lived. But now I was watching the play from the front row, and I knew how it ended. See, betrayal isn't a stab wound. It's a bruise. Slow to show, and even slower to heal. But eventually, it turns colors. I was starting to turn purple. So I waited for a night when she was really committed to the act. She texted me that Friday around 7 p.m. Said she was staying over with Melissa again. Some girls' night thing. Wine. Face masks. You wouldn't get it, she added. I replied with a thumbs-up emoji. She didn't know I was already parked down the street in a borrowed car. Engine off. Lights out. Hoodie up. At 7:43, a black BMW pulled into our driveway. Out stepped the same man I'd seen in her texts. Tall, square-jawed, and proud of it. He wasn't just a fling, he was a walking cliché. The kind of guy who thinks the gym is a personality. I called him Captain Collagen. They kissed before they even reached the door. She didn't hesitate. Didn't glance around. Didn't act nervous. No, she looked comfortable. That did it. I waited exactly 13 minutes. Just long enough for them to think they were safe. Then I walked up the front steps and rang the doorbell. The house was dim. A light on in the kitchen. TV glowing in the background. And just like a bad sitcom, the door swung open and there he was. Captain Collagen. Can I help you? He asked, clearly annoyed. I smiled. Yeah, I said. I live here. He blinked. What? Anna appeared behind him, wrapped in my robe. My robe. The one I wore when I built the deck she said she loved. Her face went ghost white. That kind of pale you don't get from fear, only exposure. Logan, she whispered. What are you? I live here. I repeated. Remember me? Husband. Guy who pays for the roof you're currently disrespecting. Captain Collagen tried to square up. Hey, man, let's not turn this into something. I turned to him, dead calm. You know what I admire about you? I asked. He hesitated. What? Your guts, I said, then stepped forward, nose to nose. And how I'm about to rearrange them. Before he could react, I shoved him back through the entryway. Hard. Not with rage. With precision. He tripped over his own pride and landed on the floor, knocking over one of our lamps, the one her mother gave us as a wedding gift. Fitting. Anna screamed. Logan. Stop. What are you doing? What am I doing? I said, stepping inside. I'm reclaiming my square footage. He scrambled up. This is assault. No, I said. This is breaking and entering. And guess what, Captain? You just got caught on my home security cameras. With facial recognition. Hope your LinkedIn's up to date. He looked toward the door like he was about to bolt. Go ahead, I said. Run. But I'll be right behind you. With a lawyer. And screenshots. Anna grabbed my arm. Please, just stop. Let's talk. You're making this worse. Oh, I'm making it worse? I laughed. Sorry, didn't realize I was the one who invited some muscle-bound mattress salesman into our marriage. She winced. It's not what you think. No. I pulled out my phone, tapped the gallery, and held it up. Because according to timestamps and GPS, it's exactly what I think. I turned to Captain Collagen. Here's the deal. You walk out that door and never come back. I don't see you for trespassing or file a restraining order. He hesitated. And if I do? He asked. I grinned. Then I ruin you. Digitally, legally, and, if I'm feeling particularly motivated, financially. Ever heard of a lien? He looked at Anna, then back at me. You're crazy. No, I said. I'm married. He left. Anna stood there in silence, arms crossed over the robe like it could shield her from consequence. Logan, she said. I made a mistake. No, I said. A mistake is forgetting to pay the water bill. This. I gestured around the house. This is character. She started crying. The tears that had always worked on me before. The ones I used to kiss away. But not this time. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered. I nodded. You didn't. Not at first. That part was almost impressive, how carefully you tiptoed around the truth. But now, I stepped back. Now I'm not hurt. I'm done. She covered her mouth like she was choking on regret. Maybe she was. Maybe it was just guilt's last gasp. Either way, I walked to the door, turned, and said the line I'd been waiting to use for days. Leave the robe. It looks better on a loyal man. Then I shut the door behind me. Let me tell you something about betrayal. It doesn't just crack you, it sculpts you. Smooths off your naivety. Sharpens your edges. And when it's done, you're not the same man. You're something leaner, harder, hungrier. I left at night with a plan already forming like storm clouds behind my eyes. This wasn't just about Anna cheating. It wasn't even about Captain Collagen playing house in my home. No, this was about respect. And she hadn't just lost it, she handed it over to a stranger like it was a clearance item. But I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't even going to scream into the void. I was going to burn her story down. Quietly. Strategically. Like a man who reads contracts before he signs them, and terms and conditions before he clicks agree. First thing I did? Called my buddy Marcus. He's a divorce attorney, the kind you want on your side when things get ugly. The kind who can weaponize a receipt like a sword. Logan, he said. You sound unnaturally calm. I am, I replied. Because I'm about to paint a masterpiece, and I want you to frame it. We met the next day. I came armed with a flash drive, pictures, call logs, financial statements, you name it. She cheated. She lied. She brought him into our house. I had enough evidence to wallpaper a courtroom. Marcus whistled. She's gonna think she got hit by a freight train, he said. That's the idea. See, Anna never signed a prenup. She was against them, said they were cold. And I, being the sentimental idiot I was, agreed. But that meant everything was on the table now. The house, the car, the savings account, even the business I'd started before I met her, because in her eyes, love meant co-ownership. But I wasn't walking away with half. I was walking away with everything. I filed for divorce that Friday. Served her on a Monday. She was at work, some downtown marketing firm that thought a team-building trust fall could fix morale. I made sure she got the papers in front of her coworkers. Let them all see the look on her face when the fairy tale finally cracked. She called that night. Of course she did. Logan, she said. What the hell are you doing? Taking out the trash? I replied. And scheduling a remodel. Thought the house could use some fresh air without the scent of betrayal in the walls. You're being petty. No, I said. I'm being precise. She started crying. Again. I didn't mean for it to go this far. That line. That's the one they always use when they run out of excuses. Well, I said, next time you want to play house with someone new, maybe try not bringing them into mine. Oh, and tell him to stop calling me, by the way. Jason called you? 3 times. Once to make peace. Said he didn't know the whole story. I told him to Google what the word affair means and call me back when he gets a dictionary. She hung up. But that wasn't the end. That was the prelude. Next, I met with our financial advisor. Turned out, Anna had been moving small amounts of money into a travel fund under her name. Cute. Almost sweet. Like she was planning a surprise trip. just not the kind that includes your husband. I froze the joint accounts, moved what was legally mine into a separate holding, left her just enough for essentials, and made sure she knew it. Then I canceled the lease on her car. Guess what? It was in my name. She messaged me that night. Anna, did you really tow my car? Me. Nope. Just moved it. Like you moved your loyalty. Meanwhile, I was still living in the house. She tried to come by once. I met her at the door. You can take your stuff, I said, but you don't get to take your time. She blinked. What? You've got 1 hour. Anything left after that gets boxed, labeled, and dropped at your sister's place. No exceptions. You can't do that. I'm doing that. She looked around, like the furniture might start pleading on her behalf. Logan, she said. Please. This doesn't have to be war. No, I said. It has to be justice. And then, just to twist the knife a little, I handed her a box. Inside was the robe she'd worn that night. Washed. Folded. With a little card that read, Souvenir from the last lie you told. Best of luck. L. She left without another word. Now here's where it gets good. I made one last move. The kind that doesn't just sting, it leaves a scar. I printed the screenshots of their messages. Just the PG-rated ones. No need to get vulgar. Just enough to tell the story. Then I mailed them. To Jason's workplace. Anonymously, of course. With a note. This man has no problem sharing what's not his. Thought you'd want to know who you're really promoting. Petty? Maybe. Effective? Oh, absolutely. A week later, I heard Jason had been reassigned. Guess charisma doesn't look so charming when it's in black and white, time-stamped between meetings. And me? I got a fresh haircut. New wardrobe. Moved out of that house, sold it, actually. Used the cash to put a down payment on a cabin 3 states away. Peaceful. Clean air. No ghosts. The divorce went through without a hitch. I kept the business. Kept the truck. Kept the dog, too. Anna? She kept her freedom, but lost everything else. Because in the end, the real punishment wasn't public humiliation or financial ruin. It was losing me. And now? Now, I sleep like a man who never doubts the silence in his home. You know what no one tells you about peace? It's not loud. It doesn't walk through the door with fanfare and a marching band. It creeps in. Quiet. Steady. Unapologetic. And after all the chaos, all the courtroom dates, the boxed-up memories, and the cold, calculated dismantling of what used to be a life built for two, I finally met it. Peace. Face to face. It looked a lot like a small log cabin tucked away in the Smokies, with creaky floorboards and a fireplace that didn't quite work unless you bribed it with kindling and patience. My kind of place. No marble countertops. No wine fridge. Just silence and space, 2 things Anna had always said made her feel trapped. Funny how freedom sounds like prison when you're allergic to honesty. The cabin came with a wraparound porch and a view of the kind of sunsets you only see in movies, the kind that doesn't beg for an audience. And me? I sat there every evening in a worn-out flannel, sipping black coffee like it was scotch, watching the world forget her name. But don't get me wrong, I hadn't forgiven her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Forgiveness, in my book, isn't some moral medal you hand out for closure. It's earned. And she hadn't even tried. What I had done, though, was release her. And let me tell you, there's something powerful about no longer needing an apology to move on. Something quiet. Like the sound of a lock clicking shut from the inside. Of course, word got around eventually. Small towns are nosy. Some neighbor of mine, a retired dentist named Floyd, invited me to a fishing tournament after spotting my Ford parked out by the lake 3 weekends in a row. Said I looked like a man who needed to catch something other than trouble. I liked Floyd instantly. Mostly because he didn't ask about my past. He just handed me a rod, pointed to a cooler full of beer, and said, "Let's pretend fish are the only problem we've got today." That kind of simplicity felt foreign at first. Like trying on a shirt you forgot you owned. But it fit. And then came Rachel. No, not a rebound. Not a romantic plot twist. Not yet. She was Floyd's niece. Recently divorced, funny in a dry way, with eyes that didn't flinch when they met yours. She helped run her late mother's antique shop down in town. First time I saw her, she was arguing with a vendor about a mislabeled set of silverware from the 1940s. She looked like the kind of woman who didn't let a single thing slide. Not even polished forks. We talked. First about antiques. Then about coffee. Then about music. She liked Springsteen. I liked silence. Somehow, we both liked that about each other. She never asked what happened. And I never offered. That was the unspoken agreement between us. But one night, while we were walking back from the diner, she stopped me. "You've got the look," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "The look?" "Yeah," she nodded. The eyes of a man who rebuilt himself with whatever pieces were left. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in a long time, someone saw me, not just the damage. We didn't date, not officially. We met for coffee on Sunday mornings. Sometimes sat on opposite ends of the shop reading books in silence. She never asked if I was ready. She just let me exist. And that was enough. But here's the funny part. While I was out here breathing easy, Anna was apparently suffocating. I found out through a forwarded email. One of her old coworkers, someone who'd always liked me more than her, no surprise, sent me a screenshot of a Facebook post Anna made. It's wild how fast people walk away from 20 years of love like it meant nothing. I laughed when I read it. Out loud. That kind of deep-chested laugh you don't fake. Because isn't that always how it goes? The ones who break it suddenly act like they were the ones who got broken. No mention of Jason. No mention of the affair. Just her playing solo violin at her own pity parade. I didn't respond. Not to her. Not to the email. Not to the memory that tugged at me like an old scar when it rains. But I did write something in my journal that night. She lit the match. I just stopped begging her not to burn the house down. That's what peace does to you. It rewrites the narrative in your own voice. And slowly, it teaches you that revenge isn't always fire and fury. Sometimes, revenge is silence. Sometimes, it's walking into your own home, tossing your keys on the counter, and not wondering if someone else's cologne is floating in the hallway. It's reading a book without pausing mid-sentence because something in your gut feels off. It's knowing your worth isn't up for debate. That you survived the lie, the unraveling, the moment she looked you in the eye and decided you were comfortable, and you kept going anyway. I'm not a saint. I'm not healed. But I'm better. And every now and then, when the sky turns orange behind the mountains, I think about that night when I rang my own doorbell and met the man who thought he'd replaced me. I wonder if he ever figured out what it cost him. Because me? I got out. And some nights, that's all the closure I need. Peace is a strange thing. It hums. It breathes. And then, if you're not careful, it knocks. A month after that Facebook pity post, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject. Just one line in the body. "You don't know everything." For half a second, I laughed. Then I read it again. It wasn't Anna. She's too proud for cryptic nonsense. Turns out it was Jason's ex. Yep, Captain Collagen had left a trail of breadcrumbs wider than his delts. The woman he'd been seeing before Anna? She found out everything. Including the fact that while he was parading around in my house like he paid the mortgage, he was still texting her. She attached screenshots. Photos. Hotel receipts. Turns out, loyalty wasn't Jason's strong suit either. Just another gym rat with a Bluetooth earpiece and a broken moral compass. And Anna? She was just another name in his playlist. For a moment, I felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the way she smirked when I slid divorce papers across the table. So I did what any grown man with dignity and a data plan would do. I deleted the email. She could keep her heartbreak. I'd already recycled mine. It was January when the real cold hit. The kind that freezes your breath before it leaves your lips. I was stacking firewood behind the cabin when Rachel drove up, window cracked, Sinatra playing low. "You look like a man who forgot how warmth works," she said, stepping out with coffee. We sat on the porch. No talking. Just mugs steaming between us. Eventually, she said, "You ever think about forgiving her?" I shrugged. "Only when I get bored." She smiled. "Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you." "I know," I said. "But right now, I'm good being slightly bitter with great taste in coffee." That made her laugh. We didn't kiss. We didn't hold hands. But something passed between us, something like a promise. Maybe not now. Maybe not tomorrow. But someday one evening, I opened my phone and saw her name. Anna. No fanfare. Just a message request. "I heard about your cabin. I hope you're doing okay." Funny thing about messages like that, they're not really about you. They're about the sender, trying to claw their way back into a version of the story where they didn't burn the pages. I didn't respond. I didn't block her either. Let her sit in the silence she gave me for the last year of our marriage. Let her feel how permanent peace can be when it's earned. Instead, I wrote a message in my notes app. Something I'll never send. "I'm okay." Because I remembered who I was before I remembered who you were. Then I closed my phone. And that was that. Revenge isn't what they think it is. It's not fists. Or fire. or shouting in the rain like some sad country song. It's this. Living better than she imagined, freer than she believed, quieter than she feared. She expected rage. She expected begging. She expected chaos. What she didn't expect was me rebuilding. New friends. New routines. A woman who doesn't flinch at my quiet. A dog that sleeps beside me without wondering when the shouting starts. And the final move? Donating her clothes. All of them. The designer ones. The ones she used to wear for nights she never came home from. I packed them neatly. Donated them to a women's shelter in Knoxville. Because somewhere out there, someone needs a second chance more than she needs to feel pretty. That was my revenge. Clean. Silent. Unapologetic. And when I walked out of that donation center, I felt something I hadn't felt since the night she said, "I just need more." I felt free. Not from her, but from the version of myself that ever let her think she could betray me and still own space in my story. That chapter's over. This is the sequel. And spoiler alert, it's a hell of a lot better.